Welcome back to another episode of the Bearcat Basketball Podcast. This is Season 2. I'm your host, Alex Meacham, former UC basketball player from 1997 to 1999 under the legendary coach Bob Huggins. I was fortunate enough to wear the iconic Jordan brand Unis during my time. Now, you can follow me on social media. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Alex_Meacham. Meacham is spelled M-E-A-C-H-A-M. I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn, Alex Meacham. I'm on Snapchat, Big Meach 41. And now, I can officially say this. On Season 2, I am now on TikTok, at Alex Meacham 41. This is a special edition of the podcast, my interview series with a very special guest. The Bearcat Basketball Podcast is presented by Healthcare Management Group. Shout out to everyone at HCMG, and thank you for the support. Bearcat fans, I would like to welcome in my next guest who covers the Bearcat football and basketball team for the Front Office News. He was on earlier this year, and he had me on his podcast, and I think he does a great job covering the Bearcats. I would like to welcome in my guy, JT Smith. What's going on, bro?
Nothing much. What's going on, Meach?
Man, I'm grinding out a lot of work right now, man. It's AAU season, putting these teams together, so just grinding all that out. What about yourself?
Man, grinding myself, man. Just posted a few articles and, man, trying to get these loans closed, so anybody out there need a mortgage refi or whatnot, holla at me.
Quick plug. I like it.
Yeah, man.
Let's rewind it real quick. You said you posted some new articles. Tell everybody how they could get your content.
Yeah, man. Hit up the frontofficenews.com. Everything's going to be posted there. Instagram, hit up Front Office News. Also on Twitter, Front Office News. And then if you want me personally, on Twitter, _JT_Smith.
They're in trouble if they're getting at you, man. They're in trouble. You know how that goes.
I know, exactly.
Now, do you have a son? Is that right?
Yeah, man, a couple actually. But my oldest is 11, so we
okay. That's the one. He plays basketball, right?
Yeah, basketball, baseball. You're in select baseball season about to start up I think next Saturday will be his first tournament, and then football. So he's playing a little bit of everything.
Isn't it great that things are starting to turn a corner as far as the pandemic, and it feels like we're kind of getting back to something, like kids are active, and do you feel that way?
Yeah, definitely, man, for sure. Like my daughter, my wife took her to soccer practice. She's been doing gymnastics, but now my youngest is still doing a little bit of baseball, so we're kind of starting to get stuff rolling, man. It's all right, next year, I think it'll be a lot better for everybody, especially by fall time, I'm guessing. But with basketball, I'm happy that your team's starting back up and everything. So I'm like, all right, cool. I see some light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Yeah. And let's also say today is March 9th. And I always call that Biggie Day. B.I.G. Day.
For sure.
It's Biggie Day. Are you a fan of Biggie's?
Yes, sir.
Favorite Biggie song, album?
Oh, man. That is maybe 10 Crack Commandments, maybe.
Ooh.
I might go off the top of my head. I might go with that. Kicking the Door is definitely one of my favorites too. Do you know
Kicking the Door was part of that was aimed at Nas? Did you know that?
Yeah, I heard, man. I heard there was a little backdoor East Coast beef, I guess.
Mhm.
I need to see more backstory on that one. I love that history of songs, especially back then. Everybody's so coded, so you had to listen and know what was going on to pick it up. Nowadays, people are just brash if they are dissing each other,
For sure. No, that generation of hip hop, man, was so great because it's like, you're listening to like a Biggie, a Jay-Z, artists like that who really take a lot of time to craft their lyrics. It's like looking at a Picasso painting, and you have to really, you can't just look at it and walk away. I mean, you really got to absorb that painting, right? To really get the full understanding, and then you've got to find the backstory to why that artist painted that painting. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Now, have you seen the documentary yet?
No, I haven't watched it yet. I haven't, because that's the one on Netflix, right?
Yeah, it's good. Man, it is good. It's good so far.
But it's in my queue. So I'm definitely gonna probably check it out. Probably this weekend, honestly. I think I might do it this weekend.
Check it out for sure. It's definitely worthwhile. Now, here's what I want to do today on this podcast. I want to talk about the last two games that the Bearcats have played. Then I want to jump into breaking down the AAC tourney. I've got the brackets up here and want to get your thoughts on what the Bearcats can do in the tourney. And then at the end of this podcast, we are going to do our list for the top 3 greatest Bearcat uniforms. Are you ready for that?
Yeah, I'm ready, man. It's only, but I'm not gonna spoil it. We'll just get to that. We'll get to that one time.
that'll be the dessert for sure.
Yeah,
that will
exactly.
be the dessert.
Exactly.
Now, this segment is sponsored by the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of Cincinnati. They now have a new flexible bachelor's degree that will allow you to graduate conveniently and affordably. You won't lose any credit or have to start over. So I'll get you more information on that in a later podcast. So, JT, let's jump into this Vandy game. And the Vandy game was scheduled because the SMU game was canceled. And, kind of a fill-in game. And I was glad they were able to get a fill-in game because this team, as you know, they just need to get a lot of reps at this point just because of the 25-day pause, right? And also it was great, I think, to have Vandy come in, an SEC team, and then also Scottie Pippen Jr., a player of that caliber. It's always good to play, teams like that and players like that. But to me, it was like I had an odd feeling going into the game. And I missed the game live, which is very unusual. I had AAU tryouts that night. Yeah, very unusual. I had AAU tryouts already scheduled. But I just had a really odd feeling going into this game because, when you find out, like if you're a player and you find out SMU has, canceled or the game's been postponed or whatever because of the COVID thing, your body kind of like, and mentally you kind of shift. You're kind of like, okay, we're not going to play Thursday, right? Yeah. So we got to get ready for ECU. And then all of a sudden Vandy's schedule, and then their mind has to shift. And it's like, in some ways, the game didn't really matter in the large scheme of things, right? It wasn't a conference game. So I was very concerned going into it. I think my concern was kind of spot on. Give me some of your thoughts on the game. Yeah,
man. The game, I was happy that they were able to schedule that game just because, like you said, they had a 25-day layoff. SMU essentially got canceled, and they're going to play on Friday, of course, but it got canceled. They would have had a whole week off. Only thing that sucked about that game is that Mikey hurt his ankle, and then they lost. Yeah. So that was the caveat on top of it. So it's like, man, Mikey twists his ankle, and then they lose. But I knew that was going to be a weird game because the SEC team, even though they're not one of the top teams, they can score. Everybody knew they could score. I just didn't. The line was weird. I think the Bearcats were like a 6.5 home favorite, so that made me a little nervous. On top of them playing Vandy, just on the whim. And Scottie Pippen just went to work, man. Scottie Pippen Jr. Man. He went to work, man. He was lights out, and it was a little bit too much. But the thing was, as bad as UC played at times, they had a chance to actually steal that game. And they had like four possessions in a row where they just couldn't score. And then after a while, Vandy started making free throws or making big plays, and it just iced the game. But, for people that, were kind of dogging the team for losing the game and like the world was falling, I mean, they actually had a chance to pull that game off. And that's crazy for how lights out that team played against, UC on Thursday.
Mm-hmm. And, so if you really look at this season, JT, I think the Bearcats have had far too many games where the other team's best player or their second best player just had career nights.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Scottie Pippen Jr. had a career night. What do you have? 36 points.
Yeah.
And for me, I think moving forward with Coach Brandon and how he assembles, his roster next year and just the culture of the Bearcat basketball program. And I think one thing that Bearcat basketball has always taken pride in, and that is the opposing team's best player was not going to beat us. I mean, if you think about, the days when I was playing, we played Lamar Odom, Katino Mobley, D. Wade. I mean, I can go on and on, the pros that we played, and Huggins was like, Lamar Odom's not going to beat us. It's going to be somebody else if they beat us. Yeah,
for sure. They have to adapt to that. Yeah, you're right. They got to get to that part.
And that's to me, that's a lot of that is this toughness and attitude of, your senior leaders. Kenyon Martin was not going to let anybody come in and outshine him in a game. He was going to have some sort of control of that game, and he would let you know if I mean, in the Bearcats at that point, there was Pete Michael, who was just locked down. Ruben Patterson was a great defender. I think Coach Brandon's going to get there with kind of putting his stamp on the culture that he wants and getting guys to do that. But that leads me to say this team has just been so every game, I liken this season to Keeping Up with the Kardashians. And I know people are probably sick of hearing me say this on the podcast. One of my favorite shows. Have you ever watched Keeping Up with Kardashians?
I watch it every once in a while.
It's a train wreck from the start
for sure.
to the end. And,
for sure.
And it's just there's just all kind of stuff happening. And this, not to say that this season was a train wreck, but there's just so much in and out between players opting out, starting with Dude to Rap to the Julius, and then you get Mikey. Saunders goes down. It's just like they're just so limited, but yet they still find ways to play tough.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, as soon as you think like they have an out to just lay down, they don't. Every time. Like, the Houston game, prime example. Sky was falling, everybody was pissed. And they had a right to be pissed, fans, former, alumni, as well. And, you get just washed on the road by 38. You might as well say it was a 40-point game. I mean, they barely got it under 40. And, and everybody was pissed off. And I understand being pissed because after a while, you're like, dang, I don't know. It's like I didn't expect that because, you go from, trading punches with Houston the year before to them just steamrolling you on national TV. You're like, oh man, this is crazy, right? And
right.
So then you go to the next game. The Julius opts out, right? Or he played that next game. He played the next game. He opts out after the game,
right?
Right. So then they won the game. Yep. So they win that game by 1. So you're like, okay, this team hasn't quit, right? It's a perfect time for them to quit, lay down. Nobody would have got mad. They just would have just snowballed whatever they thought. If they love Brandon, they probably stay the same, or they have a little bit more doubts. If they hate Brandon, then they more fuel to the fire, right? If they're in between, it's probably still in between. But then they beat Tulsa, right? Then you get the Julius opting out. You're like, oh snap! But then you understand mental health, mental wellness. Sure. Okay, boom. A lot of people were kind of giving them flack on that, and I didn't like that. Just because these young men have to live almost like they're jail people, right now, because they only could do so much. So it's like, in college, man, you having fun. So I understand this is different animal, man.
And let me say something real quick on that.
Go for it.
For the Julius, when he opted out, and I heard about it, then I read his reason. I really sympathize with him because I think about when I played and some of my teammates. I can't imagine, and he's my boy and I love him to death, but there's no way that you were going to be able to put Ruben Patterson in a room and tell him he couldn't go out. I'm telling you, that man would have lost. That would have been just complete chaos. I mean, it's got to be tough on these young men.
It's got to be, man. You got to just take a step back. You know how free-flowing you were when you were in college. I know how free-flowing I was when I was in college. All right, I might not come into my dorm or my apartment until whatever time in the morning. You know what I mean?
Right.
I might, whatever I'm doing, studying or whatever, having fun, whatever. And these young men are just, since summertime, if they've been on campus, they've just been, you can go to practice. I don't even know if they've been able to go full. Like, I don't think even every time they can go with everybody in the gym. At least at first they weren't able to. So it's like you might be there with 4 guys, and that's it. And, the coaches. And then, boom, you go back to your room. You go get some food, that's it. You're back to the room pretty much. You might have to get a pass to go see a parent or something. It's just like, it's crazy, man. And, I've been working from home for almost a year, and it's been times, man, where I'm like, okay, I need to do something. So, working out helps me stay sane. I do a couple little things here and there, but I can see how that can definitely affect a 18 to 23-year-old person where they can't do anything besides study, work out occasionally, and play basketball. You know what I mean? That's it.
Yeah.
You can definitely mentally, it can mentally wear on you. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and my hope is that Julius gets the help he needs, gets in a better space, and is able to get on with his life. And hopefully getting on with his life is, returning to playing. I know the game he loves to play.
For sure.
And hopefully it sounds like all signs would lean towards him wearing the red and black when he comes back, not leaving. So let's hope that's the case. And listen, there are so many and like Bearcat fans, like you said earlier, some folks were upset, about guys opting out and this and that. And I get that, but at the same token, you have to realize, like, we are, as Bearcat fans, we are in a bubble where we're just concentrating on the red and black. However, I'm fortunate enough to, I run an AU program, so I've got a lot of kids playing college basketball all across the country. And I talk to them all the time. Their teams are going through the same thing. Like, this is not exclusive to the Bearcats. This is a college basketball issue, not a John Brand and Cincinnati Bearcat issue. Correct.
This year is one of those one-off years. We just have to look at the positives, right? Like, everybody's want to be negative. Okay, we don't want to, or we're 500 right now. People are ticked off about that. But at the same time, this team was 3-7 before that big break. And now they scrapped back, even with all the opt-outs, injuries, stuff like that. They've still been respectable. So it's like you got to take. I'm the glass half full guy. It's definitely stuff they will have to do. To make that jump. But if he can, like I said, if he can get them a rim protector, I think you get Eason another year. Of course, you can keep Eason, right? And then with Jeremiah's jump from freshman to sophomore year, and, he came off a knee injury, and how he's playing, you just can't expect him not to ascend even more. This dude is fearless. He puts the time in the gym. You could tell. And I think he's just going to be one of those guys. Like, next year, I'm guessing he's going to be the go-to guy. DeJulius comes back for sure. But he's going to be that guy that's the money man, I think, where he's going to be the bucket guy. And, Eason, you can see that guy. You can see him ascending as well. But Jeremiah, man, he's playing his butt off, and you just could tell, he's just that energy ball. And you get more fans in there, he's going to feed on that. I think it's just going to take the team to another level. But and you can't also another player that I think a lot of people forget about is Michael Adams-Woods. He played 40 minutes for Svandy, and to me, moving forward, he's going to be your consistent piece to the puzzle. He is like almost the consistent glue, kind of bring everything together. As you talk about, Jeremiah's got the energy, Tari's got the upside with being a potential pro. You've got a lot of great pieces, but Micah Adams-Woods is going to have to be that consistent piece moving forward. I mean, he played 40 minutes. He had to with Mikey, going out. But I for sure. But I like the way he's been playing. Yeah, he's definitely. I'd probably say since the second return game, he's been pretty consistent. And he had to play 38 games in the ECU game. So he's been logging minutes and he's been playing well. I feel like his confidence has finally came back, and you could tell. you know, at first I think his confidence was a little wavery. And, you know, that's what was shocking because how steady he played last year. I was like, man, it looks like Micah's confidence isn't there the same. But now he's not hesitating anymore. That's the main thing. It's like, all right, he's open. And if it's in the flow of the offense, he's taking it. If it's not, he's going to the hole. He's making the right play.
And I think you're exactly right. And I think confidence is key. And the confidence came because I think during the off season, you know, the staff was looking at moving him around, moving him more to two guard, and you know, he played I think a lot different last year position wise, and was asked to do different things than he was asked this year. And I think he kind of settled in. And then, you know, as the lineup or as guys started to opt out and leave, and he kind of shifted, I think, back to a comfort level. And then through that, you know, his confidence was built. But I agree with you 100% that after that 25-day layoff, it seems like maybe there was a conversation between Micah and the coaching staff, and he's really stepped up. Let's use that as a segue into the ECU game. So let's forget about that Vandy. They lost 74-78. Let's jump into better times. And I think, you know, one testament to this basketball team, and you've got to give Coach Brand a lot of credit, is, you know, usually when they come off a loss or a bad performance, they turn around and have a win. True. And and you know, just when you think, you know, this team could fold, as you talked about earlier, just kind of give up. They're losing players. They know at one point, I think through warm-ups, that Mikey Saunders is not going to play. So now they're down another guy against ECU. But man, this team just keeps fighting and won 82-69, which, you know, JT is uncommon that this team's getting blowout wins, and they do it with the most depleted roster they've had thus far this year.
Yep.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. It is, man. It is. It was like, I don't know. I feel like they were going back and forth in the first half. It came out good. Got a little sloppy at times, but then they still were scoring. You know what I mean? But then in the second half, I feel like after Keith hit that buzzer beater 3, and after that, I feel like the team just was like, all right, they just executed so good, man. It was crazy. Like, it was the one play that was kind of sloppy. He knocks it down, squares it up, and after that, they just took off. You know what I mean? Like, you know, Jeremiah gets the dunk, you know. And Mason Madison, man, that dude, since he's come back, he had a rough game against Vandy, no doubt. But that dude has the confidence of an NBAer, man. Like, his confidence, like, never wavers. Like, you never see him, like, looking down on himself at all. And he was lighting. He lit ECU up. And he just gives you a lot of hope. Like, man, you know, somebody that everybody kind of thought is just a throw-in for his brother. And he's showing that he can be a good combo guard and he can shoot lights out. He's going to play scrappy. So, I mean, you know, so he played great.
Yeah, for sure. And you're listening to the Bearcat Basketball Podcast presented by Healthcare Management Group. And my guest today is JT Smith. And let me touch upon Mason just a little bit more. Let me piggyback on that. And I was thinking about this. I remember I went back after the ECU game and I looked at some articles and some different tweets when the Matson brothers committed to UC. And I think Xavier was looking at him too. And I don't know if you remember this, but even Xavier fans, when Xavier was recruiting these kids, they were like, well, no, I take that back. What happened? Okay, Xavier was recruiting them along with other universities, and then they commit to UC. And I remember some Xavier folks like, oh, well, they can have him because you got to take that other brother, Mason. The Gabe's the good one, and we don't want to have to do no package deal type of thing. Yeah. And so they go through like, you know, a couple weeks of early season practices, and I was talking with some of the guys, and they were like, hey, man, that Mason kid ain't bad, man. Like, I don't know where all that stuff came from, but they really liked his toughness. They said he had a little bit of an attitude that you need on the court. Like, you know, Steve Logan had attitude, which made him good. And I see that Mason, man. He's not shy about shooting that ball, man. Has that attitude.
Man. Nope. He got that ultimate confidence, man. And it's like, you know, hopefully they can get his brother back next year because, they said he could light it up too. So it's like, all right, you get a 6'6", 6'7" guy back, But Mason, man, he's been impressive, dude. Like, he's been balling, like, flat out. He had the one shaky game, but he still was letting that thing go when he was open, which that's all you ask for somebody. If you're a shooter, shoot, So don't be trying to make dumb passes just because you're missing them. But if you can shoot that thing, shoot it. And that's what he's doing, And he ended up hitting one big one, late there where I thought maybe they was gonna make the run, but it wasn't meant to be in that game. But ECU, shoot, he was lights out. And then I'm gonna bounce it back around to the senior to get some senior love, man. Chris Volt's been playing solid a little bit too. Like, his minutes have been different. He's been playing a lot better lately. And then I want to say Keith's been playing a lot better the last 6-7 games as well. I mean, he's doing a better job getting his teammates involved, and they're running with the ball. Like all those guys, Mikey and Micah and all those dudes are making plays, and it seems like they finally got that. I don't know, with all the ins and outs with people, not decommitting, but opting out and stuff. I feel like they still are learning to play with each other and playing with each other pretty well, which is good at the end of the season.
And I think you said something that was key about Vogt. I want to jump back to Vogt real quick. His time is more limited now, but I think that's been good for him because he's playing, more limited time, but he's given us great value.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
in that ECU game, right, there was some great value. He had, I can't remember at what point in the game it was, he had a couple offensive rebounds off of missed shots that were crucial for that Bearcat run. And
definitely,
I think he's just maximizing that time. He played 17 minutes versus ECU, but I think he's maximizing that time more. And I know the fans are kind of down on Vogt. But I keep telling Bearcat fans, like, he might not be a 30-minute guy per game is going to do this and that, but I still think there's value. If it's between 15 and 20 minutes a game, he still can bring this Bearcat basketball team some value.
Yeah, for sure. I think, like you said, I think with the limited minutes, I think it's helping him out a lot. I personally think so. Because even if he gets in foul trouble, he still can play with some aggression and, wall up a lot, even in those 15 to 20 minutes. You just go hard for that time and boom. And, if they need him longer, cool. But I think he's relishing in that role. I think, his numbers aren't huge, but, he's having like the 6.5 rebound games, a couple blocks here and there. And that is coming in handy. He's kind of doing a little bit of dirty work,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And back to Keith Williams, and you were talking about him, and I was thinking about Keith Williams' career, and I was trying to think back to a former Bearcat that's had a career similar to Keith in that, I think his senior year hasn't lived up to, I think, what people expected.
Yeah, I could say that.
Right, and I think there's. I think you have to be careful with that because of the whole pandemic, not having a lot of preseason. There's just, I think, a different dynamic for Keith. But
for sure,
if you go and look at from the first game to ECU, and a lot of times we look at a complete game, like, for example, he played 30 minutes in the ECU game. But sometimes when you look at someone's value, you have to look at some of the crunch time minutes and what that guy does. And this season, as I went back and I was kind of looking through it, Keith Williams has given us some great crunch time minutes. He might go a stretch of – right? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do, man. I do. Like, I feel like if you look online, he's the most scrutinized player on the team.
By
far. And it's crazy. Vogt, I understand. Yeah, him and Vogt. But I feel like the Vogt stuff is kind of wavered down. You know what I mean? Like, they're just like, it is what it is with Vogt.
It is
like
what it is.
For the fan base. Like, they're like, if he does great, cool. If not, but some people are just like, why are they playing Keith? And it's like, huh? Like, I don't understand that. Like, like, the thing was, like, at the beginning of the season, at this wacky year, he was the only guy you knew that was I mean, you knew he had talent, of course. The Bearcats had talent, but he was the only guy you knew was going to be able to possibly shoulder the load from the beginning. Right? And then, okay, at first maybe he didn't play as well as everybody expected. He still was solid, but, I think after this comeback, I feel like he's been playing very good. And he's doing a lot of little things that people aren't giving him credit for. Like, will Keith shoot a shot or two that people are like, maybe that's a bad shot? Even last game, I thought he did well. But, yeah, he probably is. When you think you're the best player or you feel like you're the best player on the court, you're warranted to a couple of iffy shots, right? Because he might make them, right? And but the thing is, like, he's done a good job passing the ball. He's rebounding pretty well for his position. And he's guard normally. When it gets crunch time, he normally tries to guard the best player if need be. I mean, there's a couple. What game was that when he got the steal he got the steal? Somebody else might have scored the shot, but he got the steal to steal the game. Right, the kid drives and Keith strips him. He had 4 fouls. It's certain stuff like, he might get a charge call that's iffy. Sometimes warranted, sometimes it's not. Maybe he tries to go for a steal he shouldn't go for, maybe. But I mean, I feel like his effort. It's never about his effort to me. Like, I feel like he tries. He's trying to win for one. And I just feel like he plays with that old Bearcat toughness. So it's bad. Like, I just feel like he's, like I said, the season didn't go like everybody expected, of course, for him. But I feel like he still had a solid season. I feel like he gets a bad rap just because of how talented he is. So I know, like, people are like, he could do more, maybe. But, I mean, I feel like he's doing a lot. I mean, he's playing sometimes the 4, the 4/3 the senior year when he's really a 2 guard, and he does a pretty good job. If people notice, he's always guarding the guy with the heaviest weight. Have you ever noticed that? Like, he's the 6'7" guy that can post 2. You know what I mean? And nobody says anything about that because they're not watching that. They're looking at maybe a layup that he missed or a force jumper or something like that. And it's like, this dude guarding one of the biggest guys on the court, and he's 6'5", you know what I mean? And not like, I mean, he's a solid built guy, but he's not like a husky dude, so I don't know. I'm a key fan, so.
And I think part of the issue is if you go back and just go year to year and start making your way back, we've had some great seniors wearing the red and black, right? And I think the expectation is that next guy up should have the same type of season and impact. I mean, you think about the Sean Kilpatricks, the Gary Clarks. I go on and on. You think about those guys' senior years, and you expect, okay, they've been here long enough. They should bring it like that every single night for the entire season. And that's just not been the case with Keith. It's been a weird year.
Yeah.
But I think if you look at crunch time minutes, he's been very, very valuable. And I hope when it's all said and done, people really look at his year based on that and some of the very valuable things he's done to help us win some basketball games.
Definitely. Hope so too, man. Hope so too.
Yeah, and this segment is sponsored by the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of Cincinnati. And we're talking about Keith, we talked about, Vo, a little bit about Tari. A lot has been made of recruiting, okay? So that's become such a big thing in football, basketball, doesn't matter what major sport it is, recruiting is such a big thing for the fan base. And the Bearcat fans have gotten so excited because Fickle and his staff have, you blink an eye, they've got this recruit coming in, 4-star kid.
Sure.
They got, it's just, football's such a different animal when it comes to recruiting because you're recruiting so many guys. There's so many football players on a team, and Fickle's staff's doing a great job. And I think what fans have to understand in basketball, you're making a decision to bring in a player on a team that has limited roster spots, and you're trying not to make any mistakes. And that is difficult. And you're trying not to make a mistake in recruiting during a pandemic. So that means you're not able to really watch these kids in person. And I'm here to tell you, and I'm on the AAU circuit, it is very, very tough to judge kids by video. I don't care what level coach you are. There's so many nuances you see when you watch a person live. I mean, It's just like I had the chance to see Michael Jordan play in person, and I'm telling you, as great as it was on TV, to watch that dude float in person, to see him like, it was just a whole nother level, man. It was like,
yeah, I believe it.
I'm like, this is like Jesus walks right here, man. This is the real deal. So I guess what I'm getting to is, in my opinion, and I tweeted this out, JT, I want to get your opinion. I think the future is bright. Just looking at the kids we have on the roster coming back for next year, and of course he's got to fill some pieces, but I think the future is bright based on who's coming back.
Yeah, I think so too, man. Like I said, everybody's kind of stepped up. You got Micah, it's going to be a junior. Jeremiah is going to be a junior. Those guys, I feel like, are going to take big steps next year. Mikey's showing flashes of like, okay, this kid can play. He makes freshman mistakes, but at the same time, what freshman isn't going to make those mistakes, especially at the point guard position? Tari, DeJulius, the Madsen brothers. I feel like then they got the Locken kid who, said was a pretty high recruit. Looks like he could shoot that thing, at least from what I've seen.
I saw a video of him shooting the ball. He moved pretty well.
Yeah, so it's like that gives him hope. He's kind of like the dark horse of this whole thing. So it's like, pretty much AKA a punt year for him. And then you like, if he comes in and plays well, then these guys are cooking with fish grease, and then if he can just get, I think so, man. A rim protector, you get a rim protector, just a guy that can jump and rebound and make the right play. I think that'll take this team to the next level, because I feel like, Tari's going to get a little bit stronger, of course, whole year in the system. I think he, just going to be better in certain spots because he's going to have more practice times. I feel like practice should be a lot better for him in this coming up season, I hope. Fingers crossed, right? And then that irons out a few things, and I feel like he's going to make a super extension. So I feel like they got enough. I feel like where they'll be fine. It's just, it's a couple little pieces here and there that might take them to the next level, So we'll see.
And that's why I say the pieces they put in place have to be the right pieces. You can't.
Yeah.
I like the fact that Coach Brandon hasn't got caught up in, hey, we got to announce that we've signed somebody and just get play. I don't want him to do that. I'd rather him make sure they recruit the right guy that fits the system, because this is going to be year 3. Next year will be year 3 for Coach. It's a very important year, and hopefully we're out of the pandemic. So people are going to be looking at him and going, Coach B, you've got to get it done. And
for sure. It's a money year, for sure. It's a money year, just like you said, man. So I'm glad he's not going against the grain, because, I feel like a lot of people are going to get to play. I don't even know when signing day is for basketball. I can see why people are kind of like panicky, but at the same time, hey, you should open up a little bit more. Obviously, you know that because you're working on that as we speak. And so, it might be a kid that's not getting the looks that he probably deserves, and maybe JB and the crew can see him, and boom, you get this unheralded kid that changes, what the landscape. Or it might be a JUCO kid, or with the transfer portal is going to blow up like no other this year. It's currently blowing up.
1,000 kids.
So essentially, and that's not. You see it. You can see it. Like every time I click into my apps and I'm looking at stuff, I see, this kid is coming out. This kid is, in the portal. This kid's in the portal. So, if he can get maybe get a young guy that's a nice athletic kid, and maybe get somebody that's in that portal that's an athletic kid, then I feel like this team, goes to the next level. Because if you pick the right people, it's like you said, you don't want to put a square, a circle on a square pad in a square spot, right?
Right.
Or vice versa. So, I feel like if he gets that one person, I know you could tell how he's been coaching lately. If he gets that athletic guy, I think they're just going to put the team to another level. That's what I think. I wholeheartedly believe that.
Yeah. And I have to tell, just to touch back on that portal, the transfer portal, I don't think people fully understand how crazy the portal's going to be this offseason. They're predicting over 1,000 kids in the transfer portal. I mean, that is going to be an absolute mess. And
man, it's going to be crazy.
Crazy, right? So you look at, okay, you're Coach Brandon and his staff, right? So you look at your roster, and right now you have to go, okay, first of all, how many of these guys are coming back? You don't know that answer until after the season's over. So that kind of puts a hold on your recruiting. That's one thing, right? And then you have to look at, okay, let's say you've got, who's coming back. Like, I know Keith and Chris can come back next year. Who knows? I doubt they will, but who knows? And so and Mamadou's a redshirt junior, but he walked out on senior night. Yeah. So I don't know what all that means.
Yeah, true.
If he comes back or not, but you have to factor in that. Then you have to factor in the overseas guys, the foreign players. There are foreign players out there to recruit.
Yeah.
And then there's the high school kids, and then there's the transfer portal. I mean, it is so much to navigate through, and I'm trying to explain this to people. Like, this is not an easy exact science right now for these college basketball coaches.
No,
and I think
not at all.
You said something I really liked earlier, and that is, in this particular year, you have to look at the positives. Right, and I think probably the biggest positive that I see, and hopefully he stays a Bearcat for a couple more years, that's Tari Eason. Man, I'm telling you, that kid embodies everything with Bearcat basketball.
Yep, he reminds me, like when I talked about on my pod with, with a couple guests, but when I look at him, he gives me that feel of like the Max Fields, the Hicks type dudes. You know what I mean? Like that power forward that can do a lot. I just think he's gonna get a lot better, man. They hopefully he's coming back, because he's the guy. Like him and Jeremiah right now are like the two that you're like, okay, I can see what's going to happen here. These guys are just gonna keep getting better, because Eason, if he gets the worst foul, I mean he's definitely a freshman, and sometimes he doesn't move his feet as well, but just because he's so athletic. But at the same time, he gets some of the terriblest calls against him, like on a game by game basis, man. It's it's crazy. I mean, like half of them, okay, sometimes he does foul, but I mean, it's like half of his foul, I think, all season could be reversed if it was a dispute. What's the thing? The challenge rule. They got it in the NBA. Right. They could challenge. If they could challenge, he would probably only have like 2 to 3 fouls a game, besides always getting 4 to 5. So. But you just see it, man. He can do everything. He can get on the rebound and take it. His jumper's solid. He can finish at the rim. It's just little stuff he's going to have to improve on that you can see, he's going to improve on just from getting more practice time and working with the staff. So
yeah, you know what I would love to see? I would love to see, and I should text him after we get off this, but I would love to see Gary Clark come back and work with Tari this offseason, because the reason I say Gary, because Gary's one of those guys that got better every single year, and he kind of shaped his game to really to fit in the NBA when most people didn't think Gary Clark was the NBA prospect of his team. You look at Jacob Evans, and you're like, oh, Jacob's the pro. But at the end of the day, Gary Clark's been the pro.
Yeah,
right.
You're right.
And
True.
I feel like Gary could really teach Tari the nuances of, hey, this is what you're going to face in the league. Here's what you need to work on in college. You need to be able to step out and hit. And Tari stepped out and hit some big threes. He's dunking on people's heads. That alley-oop from Matson against
my God.
ECU.
Oh, my God. That was crazy.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, man.
So
definitely got excited.
I would love to see Gary come back. Yeah, and I'm gonna text Gary and tell him, like, hey, man, you got to come back and work with this Tari.
That'd be dope. You should do that.
Yeah, for sure. And you're listening to the Bearcat Basketball Podcast presented by the Healthcare Management Group. JT, I want to jump into the conference tournament, which if you would have told me earlier in the year the way we were headed, I'm like, man, we're going to be the 11th seed, the way things are looking. But, things started to come together, and I think with all things considered, with all the opt-outs and the pause and everything, to be a number 5 seed is pretty damn amazing. I'm happy about it. We play a SMU team that I believe we beat earlier in the season, right? Yeah, we beat them earlier this year.
Yeah.
So
before the pause. Yep.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts about the Bearcats going against SMU and what they need to do to win that basketball game?
All right, so I'm gonna start off like this. I hope all those young men are fine because they went through. I think haven't played in 20-some days themselves. This would be the first time they play. So like that thing, like right. So I hope they're good. Right? Because that sucks, right? They've been sick and can't play. So the good thing, but on the being devil's advocate, it's great for the Bearcats. They've been playing. They get to play a team that may be at this time more talented, maybe the better team per se on paper right now, but the Bearcats are in the flow. So I feel like that's a super advantage for the Bearcats, even with them being shorthanded. And I'm excited about it because then if the Bearcats do win, they avoid Houston until possibly the finals if Houston goes to the finals. Even though Wichita State is the number 1 seed, I still feel a little bit better playing against Wichita, even though they have had a heck of a year. But I'd rather play Wichita before I play Houston personally. So I'm cool with that, and we'll just see what happens. So.
Well, and also the other thing is, I hope things work out with SMU and they can play that game. It sounds like they're headed in the right direction, right? They can play that game.
Sure. It seems like
hopefully not. Yeah, hopefully nothing happens. And I do agree with you. So I personally think the hottest team in the league right now is Wichita State. Like I feel like they've been playing some of the best basketball. Their head coach now, the interim tag has been taken off. He's now the head coach. And now he can kind of ease in. The players are playing with a great amount of confidence. They just won the conference. They celebrated, and they're thinking they're going to come and win this tournament. However, I agree with you that I would rather see Houston in the championship game because I feel like just that physicality of Houston just gives us fits. Like that Houston game was like, oh my God,
man. Yeah, Houston game was rough. Like it was rough, man.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm cool with if we're fortunate enough to make it to the finals on Sunday, March 14th, and play Houston. I'm cool with whatever happens. Like, of course, I want us to win, but for us to get there and just have an opportunity, I think will be exciting for this basketball team. I think the fan bases will be through the roof, just excited about that game because if this team knocks off SMU, comes out and if Wichita State makes it that far, in the semifinals and beat Wichita State and has a chance to play, if it's Houston, if it's Memphis, whoever's in the lower bracket, I mean, that's a chance to go to the NCAA tournament, right?
Exactly.
That would be
crazy.
Wild.
That would be super wild.
Crazy.
Yeah, Disney movie.
No one would expect that. Right.
Disney movie.
And then I'm going to tell you, and having known this, playing in NCAA tournament, one of the scariest things to do is to play a team that's confident going into the NCAA, regardless of what seed they are. They could be the 14th seed. They could be whatever 12th seed, whatever seed. If they're playing with a high level of confidence and start shooting the ball well, man, NCAA is a different tournament,
animal.
man.
Different animal, man. For sure, man. See what happens, man. I hope that comes to fruition. That'd be pretty dope. I definitely, nobody a couple months ago would say, hey, this team would have a chance. So, or even be ranked as high in the conference, so.
Right.
We'll just see what happens. Because, I definitely thought, 10 or worse was going to be where they were going to settle at the end of,
Same.
When they were 3-7, it was like, it could be interesting. Then they had the 25-day layoff. So that didn't help, but then I think they played way 10 times better since that layoff, so even with all the rolling the dice, or not rolling the dice, but all the missing pieces are, the messing with the puzzle, puzzle pieces are missing here and there. They're still just, collaging it together and making it work.
Finding a way, and hopefully they're able to string together. My only concern in the conference tournament is they have to play these games back to back to back. I mean, to make it to the championship game, they're going to have to win 3 games in 3 days, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's tough to do. That's just especially with a depleted, roster. Hopefully Mikey's healthy. Who knows?
Yeah.
We might get a surprise with the Julius. He might feel good and come back. Who knows? I mean,
who knows? Yeah, you don't know.
That would be great,
man.
but
for sure.
It'd be very interesting to see. So, this segment was sponsored by the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of Cincinnati. So, JT, I now want to jump into definitely a hot topic. I know on your podcast we did a list. You want to tell everybody what we talked about?
Yeah, we talked about our our top 5 shoes. So we talked about our top 5 shoes. We all had our little backstory about why, and it made it pretty cool. So, that's pretty dope.
And you know good well you can't have me on a podcast talk about shoes and expect it to be limited time, man. I'm
sure. It didn't. I figured. I figured, but it's all good. It worked out. It worked out cool. It was fun times.
No, for sure. I'm always down to talk. If somebody gets me on a podcast and says we're going to talk about shoes, hip hop, or pizza, like favorite pizza, oh man, you better make this a 2-parter because I love me some pizza.
It's going down. Me too, man.
What's your favorite pizza? By the way,
man, I'm the meat lovers guy, man. So
from where?
Man, from probably Dewey's right now.
Change. My man, no, you're right. Dewey's is the best.
I love Dewey's, man.
I want Dewey's to be a sponsor of my podcast. I'm determined to make that happen. And all they have to do is give me a free pizza once a week, and I'm Gucci.
Hey, that'd be crazy.
Man,
yeah, Dewey's is great, man. I feel you. I need to holler at them too, see if they want to sponsor.
So what we'll do is they'll sponsor your podcast and mine. They'll give you half the pizza and give me the other half.
All right, that's cool. They give me a small. They give me a small or medium, whatever. You can make it work. I'll be there every week too to collect. Like, hey, I'm the guy you're sponsoring.
For sure, no question. Let's jump into these top 3 Bearcat Unis of all time, and I am actually going to do a podcast later. Once we get out of this season, I've got a bunch of special podcasts lined up, but one of them is going to be, I'm going to take a deep dive into the history of the Bearcat uniforms.
Okay.
Because I think it's great time for that because, we'll see what happens with this Under Armour deal and what happens next. I think it's probably a great time to start talking about the history of Bearcat uniforms again. So, with that being said, I want to do the top 3 Bearcat unis of all time, and here's how I'd like to do it. I'd like for us to go back and forth. So you're going to give me number 3, and I'm going to give you my number 3. Then you're going to go number 2. I'm going to go 2. And I think we're both going to probably agree on 1. So let's start with number 3.
Yeah, we're definitely going to agree on 1.
Oh, yeah. I know, but we still got to talk about it. But so number 3.
For sure.
What's your number 3?
You going first? All right.
No, you're going first.
Okay, so I'm going number 3. I'm going with the Oscar Robertson style unis. Number 3.
Now, why
number 3? Cause man, I liked it the way the Cincinnati was on their chest. Cause they had the bold letters, right? Right? Am I not mistaken, right? They had the bold ones. I feel like UC wore them one year. They might have been with Adidas, and they were decent. I don't know if they really did it how they should have done it, but they were still kind of decent when they redid them.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I think they had Cincinnati. I think Oscars. Yeah, they had Cincinnati kind of written out. Look really long on the jersey.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah,
they had them long. Yeah, they kind of were like thick letters. What are they, like thick letters? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I'm imagining that picture of him jumping with his legs spread out. Cincinnati was
And that's what makes me like. I'm like, okay, I'm about to show the OGs, the super OGs, some love with those because they were tight. I think I wouldn't mind if Nike got a chance to redo them. You know what I'm saying? But throw that out there in the universe again. You know how that goes. I'll do that. Every time I can do it. I'll do it. Throw that into the universe. So Nike could redo them. I think they'd be even sweeter, right?
Yeah.
That's my number 3. I'm gonna go with the OGs. Oscar. I liked it the way that Cincinnati was on his chest. They were everything else was more basic because of that time frame. But I think that was real clean, just the way the style was. Like I think if Nike got a chance to do the remix, I'm gonna roll with it. It's yeah.
That's good. That's a good call. I like that. I like that selection.
Yeah. Okay.
So let me give you my number 3. My third is, and let me see if I can throw you back to this 1974. I'm gonna take you back. What year were you born?
Okay. Man, 83. So you
83. So I'm gonna take you back. So I was born in 76.
Do more research.
So I wasn't around for this, but used to be a guy that played for the Bearcats named Lloyd Batts. And I'm gonna tell you, Lloyd Batts he's an OG. He had the best afro in the history of UC Bearcat basketball. Nobody had a better afro. When we get off, Google search Lloyd Batts.
All right, we'll do.
Man, if I think I want to do a T-shirt just with his afro on it. His afro was so dope, but they wore a uniform that just said the Cats, and it was written out and had that little swirl underneath. So the Cats uniform, it's just so, to me, it's got an iconic look from like that 70s time period. And you've got, and I think too, JT, tell me if you agree with this, but I think a lot of times what happens is you get a certain player that you like, and you see them in that uniform, and they just look a certain way, and you like that uniform because the way they, look in it, or their athleticism, right? And I think Lloyd Batts made that uniform for me just because, man, that afro and just how cool he looked. He had a little chin hair, like he almost looked like a cartoon character. Make sure you look that up.
I'm definitely gonna check that out.
Yeah, for sure. Let's jump to your number 2.
All right, number 2. I'm going with the Nick Van Exel Final Four Unis. And then I like all those styles were cool. I liked those a lot with the Cincinnati. Liked the short style. Of course they had a lot of dogs playing in that uniform, so it just made it even better. You know what I mean? But I love that style. So that one, because when they redid those, even Under Armour did a good job remaking those to me. They should have made them more available to the fan base to me, but hey, I mean, can't cry over spilled milk on that one. But that one would be another one I wouldn't mind Nike touching again. But I love those uniforms, man. I think they're real cool with Cincinnati, with the how they had the sea paw with the little bear claw. You could see it crawling out, a little bit, and all those colorways were dope. If you went red, the black, all black ones were dope, all white were dope. So. And it didn't hurt that they were winning a lot of basketball and those bad boys too.
Yeah,
I love that uniform.
So, my number 2 is the same as yours. I'm going with the Final Four uniform, and it's funny you say Nick Van Exel because Nick Van Exel is my favorite Bearcat of all time.
Same.
And you're the same?
Same, man. Same.
I love it, man.
Lefty,
Nick was
little guy. I mean, he's big per se for normal people, but like a little guy per se with 6'2", 6'3", and then just could do so much. Special player to me.
To me, like growing up, that Final Four team to me is still like when I think of Bearcat basketball. I mean, I immediately think of that Final Four team. Like, no offense to the championship team, 61, 62. No offense to Oscar and the teams he was on, but I love that Final Four group. There was just so many personalities and characters. Nick Van Exel being my favorite, And that black uniform from that Final Four team just was so
fire.
So iconic. And then you got Nick Van Exel, how he wore it with the T-shirt underneath. He's got the baggy white socks with the black shoes.
The black shoes, for sure.
Wow. That's definitely
so fire.
Yeah, definitely my one of my favorites. So and we're gonna agree on this next one, but I think
sure.
we have to discuss it. So why don't you take it?
All right. We've talked about this many a times. I don't know if people have been paying attention, but the build-up is probably not even there because everybody knows the Jordan uniforms for Cincinnati are, honestly, I probably would say these are the best uniforms in college basketball ever. Or at least top 5 in college basketball ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But those are my number ones. All the players that wore it made it even more special. But the style, if you bring that uniform back right now, it's still going to get the same amount of love it got 20 years ago or whenever they stopped wearing them. If it was 17 years ago when they stopped or when they started, 22 years ago, whenever. That they're still going to get that love, man, because those things, I remember buying, every pair. I just wish I would have kept better care of them. Every pair of those shorts. Everyone, I had a pair of red ones, I had a pair of black ones, I had a pair of white ones. My only regret is not being able to talk to one of the players to see if they could throw me a couple. You know what I mean? That's my only regret about that uni. Man, just throw me a couple of shorts. But that's it. Those things were great, man. You had all the sweet Jordans. Every Jordan was already going to come with a UC colorway. Then they had their own special Jordans with it, made it even sweeter. Then you had all these, you got Kenyon wearing it, Steve, Stokes, everybody, all those people that just, those names hold so much weight, especially if you're a UC fan or a person that covers the team and, you got a little bit about it, the history. It's you got that's got to be your number one, man. That's it. I know, we didn't even, people probably that listen to the podcast because sometimes, that was the answer.
Yeah.
It's not their answer. They should need, they got, I don't know, they need to go get checked out.
Well, I know probably I would say the older generation is probably going to be partial to the Oscar uniforms, the championship team's uniforms because of just that generation. And I get that and I respect that. However,
respect it. Yeah, for sure.
Obviously, I agree with you that the Jumpman, the Cat Scratch Unis is actually the name of that style. It was called Cat Scratch uniform. And for me, obviously, the first, the uniforms came when I arrived. So my first year was the first time Bearcats ever wore the Jordan uniform. And so back to seeing a player in a uniform, man, think about that. Okay, think about those white blocks on the side of the uniforms that started. I'm talking about the black uniforms and looking at the white boxes on the side, right? So you think about how it looks vertically, and then think about Kenyon Martin jumping in the air. Was just like that uniform looked so good on Kenyon because he was so long, he jumped so high, and those boxes just spread out, and it just, man, it was just so dope. I remember we were playing in Chicago. We were playing DePaul, and the DePaul was good that year. They had what was his name? Richardson, right? Quentin.
Mm-hmm.
Was that
Quentin, yeah. Yep.
They had some dogs on their team. So I remember those guys just saying. Now they're in Chicago, right? And that's home. That's the mecca of Michael Jordan and the Jordan brand. And here we are, a Jordan team, and they're like, "Hey, man, those are the dopest uniforms ever." They're telling us that during the game and in warm-ups. It was so funny. I will never forget that. But I have actually two good stories behind the uniforms, and I can't remember. I might have told one on your podcast, but I don't think I've shared this particular one on my podcast, and that is we got shipped to Idaho to play in the NCAA tournament, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And we're out there playing, I'll never forget this. We go, this is a true story. We go and practice at a high school in Idaho. And it was maybe 2 days prior to our first tournament game. And we're out there. And I'll never forget this. We walk out. I couldn't tell you the name of the high school if you gave me $100 right now. But we walk in this high school, and we look. You know, they have pictures of the high school team on the wall, or whatever.
Yeah.
And we're walking to the gym or whatever. And we're walking and I'm like, wait a minute. And we're all looking at the wall like, yo, they've got the same uniform. So that high school team, like many high school teams around the country, they copied those blocks on the side of our uniform. Remember that? Remember how high school teams were doing that?
Yep, for sure.
This high school team in Idaho, like I had never been to Idaho in my life. I didn't even know they had like TVs in Idaho, and they had our uniform. That blew our mind. Like we knew, like I remember we were just like, yo, this is a big deal, man. I remember us talking like, this is a really, really big deal.
For sure.
And you got to think, too, JT, how much that uniform, wearing the Jordan shoes, the type of players we had, like the recruiting, it was easy. It was so easy to recruit. Like you had all the things you needed to recruit.
Yeah, you had all the necessities. That's for sure.
Right?
For sure you did, man. I'm telling you. As I tell everybody else, like I understand why they had to go Under Armour, etc. Dude, when those young men leave the court, when they don't have to worry about being branded up, they're not wearing Under Armour. And that's just being honest. Like, they're not. No matter what age they are, it's something about that brand, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
and you just gotta be honest. Being honest. So.
Yeah. And you mentioned somebody else earlier, and I think style-wise, like if you think about, so when I played, and then I think that year or so after me, we only had the black away and the white home. So I never had the red. So there was the second generation of the Jordan uniform. I was the first. I still think the first generation was the best. Although, like James White, when James White wore the all red Jordan Unis, and he had the red Jordans on, man, that's so iconic. But I think another iconic look was that first generation of Jordan uniforms, the black uniforms, the white blocks on the side, and Leonard Stokes had that white headband. It just headband. It just
so
popped
fire.
with that uniform.
It was so fire, dude. It was so fire. Stokes had that headband. That was like the coolest thing. I need to tell him that too. I need to actually let him know, like, man, that was like one of the coolest things ever, for real.
No. Tell him we talked about that on the podcast. We said that's one of the more iconic looks with that uniform.
Sure.
Yeah, when that white headband made it pop.
It did.
I agree with you. I think they're like, in the history of college basketball, they're probably uniforms that have kind of like a they have a long history, tradition. Like, okay, look at college football. You think about Notre Dame doesn't have the best uniforms in the history of college football, but the helmet's so iconic and people can tell it right away. Like Penn State that's a basic uniform, but there's an iconic, piece to it. But I think if you look at like Michigan and Duke, like people recognize that right away and just the history of what they did. But when it comes to aesthetics, just design, color blocking, no question, hands down,
for sure,
Bearcat's best ever. Like design-wise, this is no question.
Yeah, for sure. We're not even gonna argue that. That's flat out. They got to come see us on that one. we can talk about that one.
And they don't want to see us. They don't want to see us. You know what I was thinking? I thought this would be a really cool thing. I would love to find out if some of those players from back in the day still had their old uniforms. Like, do you remember when Oscar played, they had belts with their shorts. They didn't have drawstrings. They had belts. Do you remember that?
That's crazy. Yeah, I do remember that. It was almost like football pants.
and belts. Like, I always wondered,
crazy.
like, how cool it would be if he still had those shorts or somebody still had those, man. That's like museum.
Yeah.
Like, the jersey and the shorts are like,
For
it
sure.
would be really dope to see a museum of the Bearcat uniforms, you know, over the years if they
that
still
would be
have
dope.
some. Yeah, I'd love to go through that closet
That'd be
they
dope.
might have.
Same.
Yeah, definitely. Well, listen, man, I always appreciate you coming on the podcast. Hopefully the Bearcats can win 3 games here, make it to the championship, and head off to the NCAA tournament.
I know,
that
man.
would be,
Fingers crossed. That'd be dope.
no doubt about it. And so I'm going to be calling on you this off season. I want to get you, Terry Nelson, Justin Williams, Keith Jenkins. I'm going to get a group of us together, do kind of a roundtable Bearcat discussion.
For sure, man. Let me know. For sure.
Okay.
Let me know.
Okay.
I'm
ready.
here.
We're going to do it this
Yeah,
off
I'm here. You know where I'm at.
Okay, I do. I know how to find you.
Yep. Hit me up.
All right, brother. Hey, man, as always, man, I appreciate you coming on the Bearcat Basketball Podcast presented by the Healthcare Management Group. And we'll definitely be in touch, man, and talk a little Bearcat basketball here very soon, okay?
All right, sounds like a plan.
All right, JT, man. Talk to you soon, brother. Be safe.
All right, man. Have a good one.
I want to thank everyone for listening to Season 2 of the Bearcat Basketball Podcast. Once again, you can follow me on social media. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Alex_Meacham. Meacham spelled Meacham. I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn, Alex Meacham. On Snapchat, Big Meach 41. And I'm now dancing on TikTok at Alex Meacham 41. I appreciate everyone listening to the Bearcat Basketball Podcast. Go Bearcats!